Hello, adventurers of all shapes and sizes. My name is Chance. Welcome to my Spellbook, and thank you so much for tuning into the second ever episode of our feat series. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the first feats you ever see when you open up the player's handbook, and that is Actor. Found in the player's handbook, as mentioned before, and in case you're not familiar with how feats work, you get them instead of a ability score increase. So around, for most classes at least, 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th level, essentially every 4 levels. Some classes get them a little bit more frequently, shout out to you rogues, but for the most part that's the good rule of thumb to use. Some of them are really powerful, some of them not so much, and that's why we're taking a look at this series. Let's take a full look at the description of Actor so we know what we're talking about. Skilled at mimicry and dramatics, you gain the following benefits. Increase your charisma ability score by 1 to a maximum of 20. You have advantage on all charisma deception and charisma performance checks when trying to pass yourself off as a different person. You can mimic the speech of another person or the sounds made by another creature. You must have heard the person speaking or heard the creature making the sound for at least 1 minute. A successful wisdom insight check, contested by your charisma deception check, allows a listener to determine the effect is being faked. Alright, very cool. Let's take a quick look at a walkthrough of this so we can kind of break it down. So the +1 to charisma, not a whole lot to really dissect there. Add an additional +1 to your charisma modifier or to your charisma score, and it might affect your modifier depending on what you got. You have advantage on deception and performance checks when trying to mimic another person. Very cool. It might be worth noting, however, that this advantage does not apply to mimicking creatures. So please bear that in mind when you're using it. Your DM might still allow it, and I feel like I would in a lot of my games, but it comes down to you and who your DM is and what they believe. And the third part is after hearing a sound or another person speak for 1 minute, you can mimic that sound. A contested check is needed to determine the nature of the mimicry, insight contested by your deception. Really cool stuff there too. I would also make the argument that they would only make that check if they had a reason to doubt you. So if your roleplay was really good, I would determine that to kind of be null and void. Like I'd just let them roll with the advantage, see how they do, and if they roll really well, and if their role plays really well, I wouldn't even have it really be contested. I think that's very cool. Now let's get into some of my personal thoughts on it and kind of see how it would stack up. I think the class that stands the most to gain from this would actually be the Warlocks. And reason I'm saying that, first and foremost, they're charisma-based casters, so that +1 ability score to charisma actually has some use for them. Secondly, they have Mask of Many Faces. That essentially allows you to use Disguise Self at will, which is potentially kind of game-breaking if you combine it with Actor and the Friends cantrip. It will essentially allow you to pretend to be someone else, have perfect role play while you're doing it because you can mimic both their appearance and their voice. And because of the Friends cantrip, you gain permanent advantage on it. That is nuts. If you have a social setting that's centered in some city with a lot of political dialogue, stuff like that, that is a terrible combination to throw up with. Especially something like a great old one warlock would be brutal because they can have that telepathy as well. Wow, what a crazy combo, honestly. Outside of that, sorcerers might gain from it as well just because of that charisma, but all of that's going to come down to the role play aspect of it, their background, stuff of that nature. I definitely think this is a fair choice. This feat gets dumped on quite a bit. There are more useful feats mechanically, but I think thematically this one carries its own quite nicely. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm trying to keep these as short as possible. If you have any builds, any cool stories, any questions, please take them down in the comments below. And with that out of the way, guys, happy adventuring.